and thanks for joining us for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and joining me in the studio today to talk about all things flowers and insects are two of our panelists that you will surely recognize. We'll have them introduce themselves, and then we'll jump in and take off. So, Phil, we'll start with you.
I'm Phil Nixon. I'm an entomologist, retired with the University of Illinois Extension. So if it crawls or creeps, I'm the creep that answers them.
Right up your alley, huh? All right, Kelly. And welcome back, by the way.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Kelly Alsop, and I'm a horticulturist. And I also like things that are creepy and crawly. Fascinated with insects.
Yes.
But who doesn't love flowers too? So I just love it all. Flowers, vegetables.
You've brought some of your creepy crawlies
Insects.
to the show before. Good times.
Fruits.
All
Let's grow. Yeah,
all
just grow some plants.
Okay, cool. So you guys brought a bunch of stuff, and we've got lots of questions to get into. So Phil, we will start with you. You've got some breaking news.
Yes, breaking news. New field guide, published in 2023, so pretty recent. It's Insects of North America by Princeton Press, and it's an excellent book. It is not your beginner book. It's one that if you really want to get into what you see in the yard or whatever the case may be, insect-wise, this is something that will really answer that sort of thing. There are various field guides, beginning field guides, things of this nature that I like to think of, kind of identifies insects that are, particularly ones that are over an inch long. But I've described my career and my life before as working with everything under a quarter of an inch. So this gets into everything under a quarter of an inch as well as the big ones. And the interesting thing is that essentially if you have, there are keys associated with pictorial keys to help you identify insects more scientifically than picture booking. There are various things that you can get on your phone that if you've got a good photograph of it, they will identify it for you if it's a common thing. If it's not a common thing, they are very, very wrong a lot of the time. Simply because not everything shows in a photograph that you can use, and it's hard to pick out what part are bug parts versus the other parts. But this one does get into very nice illustrations that are actually photographic. Not a lot of information about the insects. It's more about what you got to identify it. But once you identified it, then you can go to the internet or wherever and learn more about its biology and what it does. But for years and years and years, if you were really interested in insects and really wanted to identify insects, the one that was the top was the Peterson Field Guide, which essentially covered the bulk of the families of insects there are, and essentially all the 27 orders at this time. Now there are 30 orders. Many of the others have been changed. The new names are in this book. The other field guides were very good, but the Peterson one stood above the rest as being more academically based and more and very complete, concise. This one is kind of taking its place, and the stuff's new. And one of the things that you can identify in there as we're moving into spring are some of our new spring insects that are coming up. One that I noticed in my yard in central Illinois just this last weekend was this insect. This is the red admiral butterfly. It's one of the first butterflies to show up in the spring. It overwinters as a pupal stage, but also will migrate into the area. It emerges very early in the spring, so there are newly emergent ones. If you see one that's kind of a light orange color, the reddish orange part on the red part of the admiral is kind of lighter orange looking, and the wings are tattered. It's probably one that flew in from the southern states. But if it's real bright and it's even redder than the Illini orange, then you're probably looking at one that just emerged from from a pupa of a chrysalis. And these butterflies have about a 3-inch wingspan. I saw pairs, duos of them, I shouldn't say pairs, flying around and either, I don't know if they were males sparring with each other over mating territories or if they were males and females sparring over what we do know males and females spar over.
Yes.
But at any rate, one or the other was happening and you'll see these in warm afternoons. They kind of look dark from a distance. You get close up, you'll see them. But if you see butterflies flying around,
I saw two yellow ones.
Yellow ones are going to be sulfurs, probably.
Okay.
It's a little early for the swallowtails. They'll be a 5 to 6 inch wide insect.
Okay.
5 inches, 4 to 5 inches. Most of the sulfurs are going to be somewhere around about a little bit smaller than these, about 3 inches,
Okay.
2.5, about 2.5 inches, and they're gonna show up pretty early in the spring because they feed on clovers.
Gotcha.
And caterpillars do. The clovers are already coming up. So
Spring has sprung.
spring is springing and spring is
Awesome.
sprung. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And butterflies are one of my favorite. Like, as soon as you see them, it's like the robins and then the butterflies, and then everything is sort of in its place. So
There you go.
happy about spring. Excellent. Thank you, Phil. All right, Kelly, what'd you bring us?
I brought begonias. I'm constantly trying to predict horticulture trends, and I'll go, this is the year of the begonia, and nobody will think about begonias. But hey, maybe I actually do think that begonias are gaining in popularity. I mean, it's hard not to love the beautiful flowers. But there are many different kinds of begonias. Here are just 3 types of begonias in front of you. The really bright yellow ones that really are screaming Easter, right? These are your tuberous begonias. And these are some of the ones that gardeners will overwinter the way that they do dahlias. They'll dig them up because these begonias really do not like cold. Even though I have them, I'm not going to put them out until May because April is too cold for begonias.
Okay.
So I do have this tuberous begonia, so maybe some gardeners are pulling them out now and starting them to put them outside. For this one, I would not pot this up. I would not touch the roots when I buy it in a store like this. It responds, it does not respond well to overwatering or underwatering.
Oh boy.
So you have to be the perfect middle waterer. If you underwater it, it won't flower. And if you overwater it, then you're gonna have like root issues like botrytis.
Yes.
So this one I would keep in partial shade. I would just check the watering. I wouldn't try to plant it in the ground or plant it anywhere
I was going to
else.
ask that.
Absolutely not. It's not going to work. This other one is called a wax begonia. Now it has a fibrous root. Now this is what you do plant in the ground, but they remain short. Now they don't spread out too much, so you'll find them in these like flats and multiple plants. So, but you can also use them in containers and they'll do amazing. And then we have a Begonia boliviensis. I used to call them bonefire. That was just a kind of a, this one's called Nova Yellow. That was just the kind. These, I think, became popular for their trailing habit, and hummingbirds love them. So I would definitely put this in a container with maybe another flower or two, or I might have make it into a hanging basket. So, and then the other big part, right? The other big part, what you want flowers all the time, right?
Yes,
Do you know what you
of
have
course.
to do to get flowers all the time, right?
Deadhead.
No.
No. Okay. I thought I had it.
You have to fertilize.
Fertilize. Okay.
So a lot of people really make mistakes when it comes to annuals, and they think, oh, it's drought tolerant. Well, they'll let it go through drought. Yeah, it's drought tolerant, but then it's going to compromise the flowers. So you need to like be on top of giving annuals like these, where you want them lots, full of color, flowers all the time, you need to give them like consistent liquid feed. Oh my gosh, that's a big word. Or, every 1 or 2 weeks, you give them a nice fertilizer treatment. You definitely want to look at the fertilizer for the recommendations. So yeah.
Just what would you put on there, like a 10-10-10, or is there a specific one?
I would look at the fertilizer label and see what it said for how. For this one, I would, treat it more like bedding plants. I mean, even though technically you could call this kind of a house plant, you want it to be floriferous. So you want lots of.
Floriferous, I like that.
Right, because you're not going to always fertilize house plants, because are they flowering?
No.
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 And then you're not going to fertilize houseplants until they actively start growing.
Yes.
When are they actively growing?
Nowish.
Hot and sunny.
Hot and sunny. I've seen a lot of growth actually on my houseplants now.
Okay, well, if they're that's good. It could be the heat. It could be the sun. Yeah, I'm ready to kick all the plants out of the house. As soon as they get kicked out of the house, then they're gonna start actively growing, and then you start fertilizing your house plants. But
okay, I wanted to ask the light needs for these two here. Did you mention those?
They're all supposed to be part shade. I would say wax and Boliviensis could go in a little bit more sun.
Okay.
If you did not let them completely dry out.
Gotcha. Okay. Wonderful. Well, you've got your marching orders for your begonias.
And I love this color.
That is pretty. It's really pretty. I like how it hangs.
They're all like really vivid color. They always have, even though this is white, it has that bronze foliage.
And I never would have thought of a begonia as a trailing.
Oh, this one does.
Yeah.
Great trailing begonia.
Really
so
pretty.
yeah, you can't just go in there and buy a begonia. You have to be, what kind of begonia is that?
You must learn the begonias. Okay, Phil, before we go back to you, I wanted to ask, because I'm chomping at the bit with this leaf litter in my yard, right? It's still
I want to say one short little thing.
Sure, go ahead.
I misspoke when I said hot and sunny for houseplants. That's not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
They do need it warm, and they do need more light, but your houseplants that have been inside are used to very low light. And the last thing you want to do is move them out into sunshine.
And let them fry.
You move them out into the shade to where they get more light than they've been getting inside your house, but not anywhere close to full sun, correct? Because that will tend to blast your plants out.
Right, the botany behind that is that the cuticle on the leaves hasn't built up enough to handle full sun.
Right.
And so you're just going to burn those leaves instantly. It's like, when you start seeds indoor and you gradually push them out. It's called hardening them off. It's that it's that cuticle that it's. So yes, I do want to. I agree. Some house plants can take full sun, but yes, not immediately.
They have to work up to it.
They've got to work up to it. Okay.
And then you have to work them back down so they can handle the darker light.
Yes.
Even though in the sunny window inside your house, it's a fraction of what they're getting out, even under a shade tree.
Or
commonly.
You can be like me and bring the whole Scheffalera plant inside and have all 90% of the lower leaves fall off onto the floor.
Yes, that happens. Yes. What I was asking. Yes. So I've got, like my little hostas are peeking above the leaves, and I want to move the leaf litter, but I'm also trying to be a good steward of our pollinators. So early April, yes or no? Kelly's saying no.
Why?
It's not
I agree.
I'm just ready to get outside and play. I'm ready I want to divide these hosta. They're ready to be split.
You're not ready.
No? Okay. All right.
What does leaf litter do? It also protects your plants from cold.
Yes.
I mean, we still live, although we have gone through one of the warmest winters we've ever had, right? We still live in Illinois.
Yes. I needed this. I needed them to smack my hand.
We still live in Illinois, and it's going to get cold again, maybe.
Okay.
And
Who's still overwintering in there? Do we have a list of our insect celebrities who are?
Are there insects flying all over the place right now when you go out on a warm day?
Yes,
Lots of them?
Yes, yeah. A couple.
There's still a lot of them
bees.
There's a lot of them still that are hanging in. Yeah, some of your ones that can handle the colder weather, such as the flies, which I hope to talk about a little bit later in the show, and the bees are out, yes. But a lot of the other things, even the lady beetles you're probably not seeing many of. They're still hanging down in the litter.
Okay.
And certainly you're not seeing a lot of moths around the lights at night yet.
True. That's true.
They're still hanging out in the litter. And many of those moths are good pollinators and things of this nature. You don't have to be pretty to be good, okay? And so all of this sort of thing is still there, and it's still in the winter stage.
Okay.
And really, when it's the time when you can really start when you really should be putting out your tomatoes, which is probably mid-May or early May even at the earliest. Then you can start moving back mulch and so on.
I've got to leave it for another month.
But I would say leave it for another month. And if you have things such as hosta coming up and are dividing, you want to divide that, you can certainly move around the mulch. You can divide things. You can still put the mulch back. But of course, particularly with hostas, mulch is what? A #1 slug food. So you do need to get that mulch away from those hostas before the slugs start really hounding down on your hostas, which they will do it fairly early. I'm not sure what Kelly's opinion is on. I'm not sure about how the hostas need to have the right conditions and need that mulch, but certainly the slugs will start feeding on those hostas when the air temperature is probably in the evening, in the night is still probably still in the 40s. So they get out and they're active pretty quick. They're out with the worms out there pretty early in the spring.
That's why I do think it is fun for you to divide those hostas, right? Hostas are expensive. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. They make this amazing ground cover. But yeah, I'm not a big fan. I mean, everybody wants to chomp at the bit right now. They want to plant those tomato plants. They want to plant those annuals. And yeah, it might make it through a cold temperature, but it's going to just stunt it for almost the rest of its life. So
I don't want to plant. I just want to tidy up. But I'll wait. I'll wait. I'll wait. You got me.
I mean, what can she do? What can you start?
I can till
thinking
the
about
garden.
some
I
of
can do
the-
some other
You can
things.
till garden.
Yeah.
You can plant early garden. I mean, this is not too
Peas.
late to be
Time for
planting
peas to go in.
and
I mean,
lettuce and potatoes and your greens and
I'll leave the
your
flower
pole
beds
crops.
alone.
Things such as cabbages and things of this nature can all go in fairly early. They can handle temperatures down to 20 degrees.
Okay.
But what's sitting underneath that mulch can't so well.
Okay.
Why can't you grow some parsley?
I can. I just wanted to tidy up. You know, like when you see those little shoots coming up, it's like
grow some
it
lettuce.
means go time. And so, but I will behave.
Have you ever heard of wabi sabi?
Yes, I have wabi sabi at Japan House. I have heard of wabi sabi.
I think one of the things that I know this is off. One of the things I love about hydrangeas is I love brown hydrangeas.
Yeah.
I think they're just like stunningly beautiful, and it's the time of the year. And when I talk to other people about it, they're like, "Oh, they're just ugly."
But you like them.
I think they're beautiful.
They got neat texture.
They do, don't they?
I just like. Can you think that the hosta leaves poking up through the not so pretty leaf litter, like the dichotomy, the irony,
You're right.
the beauty of nature,
In
and
its
those
own time.
leaves are nourishing
Yes. All right.
the
fine.
hostas.
Life from the dead, whatever you want to talk
Whatever you
about.
want to say. Either way, leave it alone. I got you.
Be wabi sabi.
Phil, we're back to you.
This is the time of year, being spring, and things are starting to come out. And if you have fruit trees, particularly apple trees, have to realize that the apple fruit is made by the plant to be eaten. The only reason it produces nice fruit like that is they want it to be eaten, and it wasn't necessarily created to be eaten by people, eaten by other critters that would move its seeds around. And insects take advantage of that good food that's there too. And so we have insects and diseases that attack our fruit trees quite a bit. And in apples, we tend to many of the things such as prunes, plums, peaches, apricots, these sorts of things, don't have near as many pests as apples do. And so apples, there are actually times in which you would apply sprays, and you can apply a few to have a very good crop. You can apply a lot of sprays, and you can do what commercial people do, to where they have essentially all harvestable, sellable crop, or you do essentially nothing and have a couple apples that you eat parts of that are still good. So it all depends. But if you're going to do some treatment, one of the first things you look at is what they call green tip stage. And you can see that the green leaves are just starting to come out on the tips and down here on the side. Okay, and so that's a stage in which many times miticides are applied if you have mites. Most home gardeners are not going to have mite problems on their trees, but that's a possibility. Okay. The next stage is what's called the tight cluster stage. And this is when the flower buds, which are still green at this time, are very tightly clustered together here in the center. See, the leaves are coming out already, but the leaves are out on apples before the flowers occur. And so this is going to be a stage in which you have what's called green cluster or tight cluster stage. And there are some various herbicides that are, not herbicides, fungicides that are sometimes used at this stage. The next stage that we normally look at is pink tip or pink bud. And this is where the flower buds are showing pink on the end, particularly those down towards Kelly's fingers right there are showing a lot of nice pink. And this is another stage at which there are particularly some fungicides that are applied. It's really early before insecticides. And then you get to full flower, and this is early flower. We've switched in these last two to crab apples from apples in my yard. But you can see that the blossoms are out, starting to come out. And this is a time in which you really don't do any spraying at all, because pollination is occurring during this time. And you wait until, typically, you would not do any spraying at all until you get to 3/4 petal fall, which doesn't mean 3/4 of the petals on each flower has fallen. It means 3/4 of the flowers on a tree have dropped their petals. And so most of the tree is bare. When you really get into insect treatments, and that is another fungicide treatment at that point. But when you get into insect treatments, it's normally when you're getting little fruit, and they normally look at fruit that are 10 to 11 millimeters across, to 10 to 12 millimeters across. There's 2.5 centimeters or 25 millimeters in an inch. So a 12 millimeter fruit is just under 1/2 of an inch in diameter, which is typically in central mid-America, central Illinois and across, is typically going to be somewhere around Memorial Day.
Okay.
Is typically when you're going to be doing, and you're going to be treating you're not only going to be spraying apples, but also peaches and other fruit at that same stage, because we have an overwintering pest called the plum curculio that likes to lay eggs and have larvae eating the inside of peaches and nectarines. And the larvae don't survive in apples, but you get these little 1/8 inch to 3/16 inch wide half-moon brown shapes on the outside of your apples, where they laid eggs in. The pressure in the apple developing smashed the larva and the egg that was trying to hatch. And it never developed, but that cut created a mar that will still be there when you hatch, pick your half. Your
you can
full
still
apple.
eat them, right?
You can still eat them.
All right. That's all we want to know.
It's distasteful appearing. It's not real nice looking. And so certainly then once you get, and that's once you start getting some very small fruit forming, maybe even before your 1/2 inch stage. Your 1/2 inch stage is really when you start with collie moth, which is a worm in the apple.
Okay.
So y'all, he just totally told you why it is difficult to grow apples in Illinois.
Yes.
And difficult to grow apples anywhere.
Okay.
And which is why when you buy apples in a store, they have been sprayed. And they have been sprayed. And they have been sprayed. And they have been sprayed.
Okay. Well, now you've got your marching orders for your apples. Real quick, before we end the show, we had a lady write in. Her name's Bet. She wanted to know about the suitability of no-mow lawns in central Illinois. So is this something that you can do here, and is it hard to establish?
Yeah, there's this huge trend of using clover and other fescues as your lawn cover. I don't know a ton about it, but one of the things that I love is ground covers. Let me just really quick. I love ground covers underneath trees.
1 minute.
I love ground covers underneath trees. This is called soft landings because she's talking about the overwintering of insects. Well, we want these caterpillars to eat the leaves on these trees, and then when they pupate, they fall to the ground. And what's underneath that tree? Lawn. And we just mow right over them. So I love the idea of having these extensive ground covers underneath trees. So I feel like that might be easier, but because when you do a no-mow lawn, you're going to have to really combat weeds and think about the cover crop and integrate more seeds into it every year. And it might be a bit difficult compared to a ground cover.
That is the show. Thank you to my two scientists who showed up today and educated us on all the things. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got questions for our experts, send them in to yourgarden@gmail.com, and we will see you next time. Good night.